I was really freaking nervous when I first got there. If you wanted to watch all the footage for episode 1, it would take you 2 years. If I had to go back and edit the show again, you wiped my memory, it'd be completely different because it's just so much footage. As an editor, I was like, oh, the pinnacle of all this content is kind of lackluster and we're not going to have enough suspense. It's kind of like you got to make a sandwich and you're at the grocery store. I'm sitting there, and if you wanted to watch all the footage for episode 1, it would take you 2 years. So I can't even see it all, but I'm not going to look at every item in the grocery store. I knew what happened on set. I knew who the winner was, and I knew what characters needed to be developed. And so we built the story around them and things that happened around them. And after that, so let's say I needed to get my bread. That was my bread. You know what I mean? And I'm starting to figure out, I'm like, I don't know what kind of sandwich I want to make yet, but I know it needs to be a sandwich. So I got the bread. But when we're talking about how people react to challenges, how people react to events, now it's like I'm just kind of looking around. And I remember I can listen to about 4 to 5 audio tracks simultaneously, but 6 I could not. And so I was just scanning this giant library of footage constantly, just grocery shopping, just picking out ingredients and creating sequences of shots that I thought were powerful. And the thing that you have to remember is ultimately at the end of the day, for 99% of the situation, it doesn't matter how much footage you have. One shot is going to be on screen at once. And you can almost take peace in that because you got to make a decision. And objectively, if you put 2 things side by side, one thing is better than the other. And if you look close enough, you can figure out which one's better than the other. And it's just the entire post-production for season 1 took about 3 months, I believe. And about a month of that was primarily me and just a few other editors just editing episode 1 by ourselves. The final cut of episode 1 is like the first 2/3 of it are basically me. Are all me. And I was really freaking nervous when I first got there. I'd never seen 1,000 audio tracks before. Premiere Pro, the software we chose to edit in Premiere Pro, had never seen that technicality of a production. We had to have Adobe engineers on site, ready to create new features for us to even make this thing exist. And I was so scared because this $100 million production was it had been shot, it had went well, and now it was on the editing team to get it done. And I was sort of the leading creative voice on the editing team. And it was so freaking scary. But I took a lot of relief in the fact that only one thing can be on screen at once. And the story weirdly kind of told itself when we were editing. We just found the shots that we needed. I don't know how if I had to go back and edit the show again, you wiped my memory, it'd be completely different because it's just so much footage. And the things that I would pick would be completely different the second time around. You could edit 5 or 6 different versions of that episode that would all be equally as good, Maybe I didn't even find the best version. You know what I mean? On episode 10, the grand finale of the show, they're playing this game where there's like a lazy Susan basically with a bunch of briefcases on it. And the game was designed to go multiple rounds, but it only went 1. And so as an editor, I was like, oh, the pinnacle of all this content is kind of lackluster and we're not going to have enough suspense. But if me and you stare at each other, Josh, right? You're waiting for me to finish talking. And then all of that time of you waiting, I can just use that with a room tone behind it as a long pause and the vice versa. And you can kind of create this intensity in the edit that like maybe didn't exist on set because there are things for people that are like super uncomfortable, and just long staring is just, you'd be surprised how many seconds you could go without a single word of dialogue of just long staring and ramping up intensity. It's pretty insane. And that is the main strategy used on that final scene. And it took me a while to make because I just stripped away everything. I just put it, I categorized it by emotion. Like what emotions, like their little micro emotions in their face, their long pauses, and I put it into separate sequences. And then like I knew what happened because I was on set, and I just reassembled the whole thing, but as glorified as I could make it because I knew that the show needed it. The show needed to have this like really intense ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes across, and that is the reason that comes across is editing.